The request came so quietly that it almost vanished beneath the noise of clinking cups, low conversations, and the hum of a busy cafe. Yet it struck like thunder in a life that had grown used to silence. A tired young mother, her hands trembling slightly from hunger and pride colliding, leaned toward a stranger's table and asked a question that would unknowingly split his carefully controlled world wide open. In that small moment, surrounded by warm lights and the smell of fried potatoes, fate leaned in close. And before this story goes any further, if you believe that kindness can change destinies and that second chances can arrive disguised as the smallest requests, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that touch the soul. The man at the table appeared ordinary to anyone passing by. He wore a tailored gray suit that spoke of discipline rather than luxury, and his posture was rigid, as though he had trained himself never to take up too much space. His eyes, however, carried something deeper than wealth or success. They carried the weight of someone who had climbed high but never escaped the shadows below. He was used to eating alone, used to the polite distance people kept, and used to the quiet that followed him wherever he went. The plate of fries in front of him was untouched, steam curling upward as if waiting for a purpose beyond, feeding a man who rarely tasted his food. Across from him stood a woman whose life had been shaped by struggle rather than strategy. Her coat was thin for the season, her hair pulled back not for style but necessity. She held her small son close, his wide eyes locked onto the golden fries like they were something magical. She had not planned to ask. Pride had held her back through days of skipped meals and nights of pretending hunger was sleep. But children do not understand pride, only need. And when her son's stomach had growled loud enough to embarrass them both, she had made a choice that felt heavier than any burden she had ever carried. Her life had not always been this way. Once, she had dreams that extended beyond survival, dreams of stability, of laughter at dinner tables, of a future that felt safe. But a series of quiet disasters had reshaped everything. A husband lost to an accident that came without warning, medical bills that swallowed savings whole, and a job that vanished just as quickly as it appeared had pushed her into a corner where every day felt like a negotiation with despair. She worked when she could, cleaned where she was allowed, and smiled for her son even when her heart felt cracked down the middle. This cafe visit was not a treat but a shelter from the cold, a place where she could pretend, for a moment, that life was normal. The man watched her closely, though she did not notice at first. Something in her eyes stirred memories he had buried under contracts and boardrooms. He had been that child once, sitting beside a mother who tried to make emptiness feel full. He remembered the way hunger sharpened every sense, how hope could shrink until it fit inside a single question. Long before he became a billionaire, before his name carried power and fear in equal measure, he had been a boy counting coins, learning early that the world was not fair but sometimes merciful in unexpected ways. His wealth had come from brilliance, risk, and relentless effort, but also from a vow he had made to himself long ago. He had promised that no one would ever see him weak again, that he would never need to ask. Over the years, that vow had hardened into a wall that separated him from genuine connection. People approached him for favors, investments, attention, but never with innocence, never with a child's quiet hunger in their eyes. This request, small and unpolished, slipped through every defense he had built. As he pushed the plate forward, something shifted inside him, not just generosity but recognition. The cafe seemed to fade as he noticed the way the woman hesitated, how gratitude and embarrassment wrestled across her face. Her son reached out cautiously, as if afraid the moment might disappear if he moved too fast. Watching them, the man felt a strange tightening in his chest, the kind that had nothing to do with business or control. It was the ache of remembering who he had been before success taught him to forget. Time moved differently after that. He listened as the woman explained her situation, not with complaints but with quiet honesty, as though facts alone were heavy enough. She spoke of work that barely covered rent, of days when she told her son stories instead of serving dinner, of the constant fear that tomorrow would be worse. She did not know who he was, did not know that the man sharing his fries owned buildings she could never afford to enter. To her, he was simply someone who had listened. For the first time in years, he did more than listen. He stayed. He asked about her skills, her past work, her dreams that had not entirely died. He saw intelligence beneath exhaustion, strength beneath humility. This was not charity he felt compelled toward, but respect. He had spent billions investing in ideas with far less promise than the resilience sitting across from him. And as the boy laughed softly with a mouthful of fries, the man realized that this was the return he had been missing all along. The days that followed unfolded like a careful miracle. He did not hand her money and disappear, knowing how fragile dignity could be. Instead, he opened doors she had never imagined touching. A stable job within one of his companies, flexible hours, childcare support, and a chance to rebuild without feeling pitied. He ensured she would never know his full net worth, never feel indebted to a name larger than life. What mattered was that she felt capable again, that her son would grow up believing the world could be kind. For the man, everything changed too. The emptiness that had haunted his success began to loosen its grip. He started visiting his offices not as a distant figure but as a presence, listening to stories, noticing people. He funded programs not for headlines but for impact, guided by the memory of a simple plate of fries. The cafe became a place he returned to often, not for food but for grounding. Each visit reminded him that wealth meant nothing if it never touched a life. Years passed and the boy grew. He no longer stared at plates with hunger but with curiosity about the world. His mother stood taller now, her laughter easier, her eyes no longer shadowed by constant worry. She never learned the full truth about the man who helped them, and he preferred it that way. Some kindnesses lose their power when labeled. What mattered was that a single question, asked in vulnerability, had rewritten 3 lives. And now, as this story draws close to its end, if it has reached something tender inside you, if it reminded you of a moment when you needed help or offered it, please pause and engage with this video. Like it, share it, and let the algorithm carry kindness a little further. Before the final moment, we ask you to leave a comment sharing what this story made you feel or a time when a small act changed everything for you. Because in the end, this was never just a story about a billionaire or a plate of fries. It was about the courage to ask, the humility to give, and the quiet truth that the smallest moments often carry the greatest power. Sometimes, all it takes to change a life is a question whispered through fear, and someone willing to answer with an open heart.